ranted on him hard for that. Hard. There's some video about it, whatever. I mean, I ranted hard because I was like, what are you talking about, man?
Because you got played. And here's what this is why I think you're going to vote for Trump.
Before I get started on this, I want you to know right now, I really and truly don't want to talk about Michael Rapaport again. However, this little segment from the Patrick Bet David podcast was pretty daggone, how do I say this, revealing. Revealing in the sense that there are so many people that are actually manipulated by our media. Now, the goal of this channel going forward, starting this year, is to explain how it is that the media manipulates, provide actual examples, and then eventually provide examples like, oh, I don't know, certain crimes that were committed, certain hoaxes, certain race grifts, things like that there, which just manipulate the emotions of the American people. And it also helps explain why it is that we're in this situation today. Of course, I do intend on doing other work on this platform. I'm not going anywhere. I've pretty much resigned to the fact that due to my current situation in life, I'm probably not going to be going anywhere. So go ahead and get used to seeing me for many years. Now, the thing about Michael Rapaport is that Michael Rapaport has been known to be a serial Donald Trump hater. Okay? Insults like, pick Donald Trump and, you know, all that type of stuff there, it quite frankly is annoying. Most people just look at him and just say, okay, whatever, and they just move the hell on. Of course, there's also the famous incident where he got nailed in the face with a snowball, which, of course, if you actually listen to it, don't worry, I'll link it in the description box, because I don't want to focus on that in this video. You will pretty well see that the person who's screaming, shut the F up in the background, it's pretty easy to make out who that voice is. It's Bill Burr. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. It's pretty obvious, all right? Of course, people thought the entire event was staged, and chances are it probably was. But still, at the same time, they were lampooning cancel culture. And you obviously can see, Michael Rapaport is obviously not okay with the situations going on around the world. I mean, in the last video that I made on Rapaport, I definitely alluded to what I'm showing you now. This right here is probably the real reason why it is that he's turned on the current administration. He's considering Donald Trump as his candidate of choice in 2024. However, this video right here is to talk more about the people who are completely misinformed. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. But let me say this real quick. It's never one thing. It's never one thing that actually turns somebody to a certain side. It's never one thing. It just isn't. Right now, you have an economy with ridiculous levels of inflation, but yet the federal government, they tell us that the jobs market is great. Even though while the unemployment rate is down, there are a lot of other factors for this. Labor participation rate is obviously down. To go on top of this, people are getting a lot of part-time jobs. If you actually look into the numbers, you can pretty well see that. Don't worry, I'll link it in the description box. You can see that a lot of people are working 2 or 3 jobs at one time. Also, not to mention the fact that the Biden administration is still factoring in all the post-pandemic jobs that were lost in 2020 and 2021 that eventually came back over the course of 2021 and 2022. Some of these jobs, by the way, came back in 2020 when states began to open back up. But once again, though, our mainstream media loves to manipulate people. So one thing that the mainstream media does, in fact, love to manipulate people on outside the economy, of course, is foreign policy. If you look at the Russia-Ukraine situation, it's completely fallen apart. But yet here we are sending $60 billion more to Ukraine with Republican senators voting with Democrats to do so. It's a losing war. It's a losing front. And quite frankly, we need to stop sending money over there. I was never okay with it to begin with. But of course, if you say that, they're going to label you a Putin loyalist. This is how the fat radical left, this is how they operate. Of course, these people are now saying that Tucker Carlson should be locked up, even though while interviewing Vladimir Putin, he also continued to forget that Oliver Stone also interviewed Vladimir Putin. Not only did Oliver Stone interview Vladimir Putin, he was actually in Russia for a couple of weeks and got a lot of praise for his Showtime special. But that right there is not here nor there. The thing is this right here. Our media manipulates the little hell out of people. And of course, this also includes people who are comedians and people who are in Hollywood. Now, I don't feel sorry for any of these people because they are, in fact, people who have a lot more money than me. Now, I'm not some anti-1% guy or anything like that. I understand that the wealthy have got to pay the salaries around the country. And I personally don't think there should be a law against people making money. I mean, I am a pure capitalist. However, I do think that there is a problem with what we call crony capitalism. And of course, we're not dealing with capitalism these days. We're dealing with rampant consumerism. That's really and truly what's going on here. The radical left, of course, they do not seem to understand this, but of course, they got to scream capitalism is bad. But here's the thing about this interview with Michael Rapaport. It's really quite revealing. And with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to the first little segment.
In media in general, even with you guys or when people are talking politics, is if the other side or a president you don't like does something good, it's never acknowledged. So I'm going to ask you this, because you could probably answer this better than me. What has the Biden administration done that you do like?
Well, Mike, I can't say that the Biden administration has done anything good at all. Inflation is through the roof, the amount of money spent. And I know that the Trump administration spent a lot of money too, but of course, when he spent that money, there was a lot of economic growth to go along with it. You see, you can have a high national debt, but you have to have some form of growth to go along with it. When Obama was in office, the national debt more than doubled on top of what it was in the Bush administration. And by the way, I'm not praising the Bush administration either. The Bush administration didn't have a whole lot of growth either. The Clinton administration, there was growth, but of course, if you actually look at the overall growth, compare it to the 1980s, the true growth in the American economy was really under Ronald Reagan. Of course, the economy ebbs and flows, and of course, they'll tell you that less jobs were created in the Reagan administration, and of course, you would probably be correct, but of course, the population was also a lot smaller, and the economy itself was a lot smaller. We were no longer as technologically as advanced as what we were then, and new jobs were being created. But of course, it was under the Clinton administration when NAFTA was signed, and eventually the Rust Belt became the Rust Belt. Jobs were being sent overseas. The Bush administration, he aided in that. The Obama administration accelerated. The Trump administration, while they brought some jobs back, I think for the most part, just that we put a freeze on everything. But at the same time, though, when Trump was in office, you didn't have Israel at war in Gaza. You didn't have any brand new wars, whereas under Biden, you've now got Ukraine, Russia, you've got Israel, Gaza. What else do you have? Oh, yeah, that's right. You've got Taiwan. Of course, you've got China saber rattling. And also this little situation in South America between Venezuela and Guyana. It doesn't seem to me like the Biden administration has done anything good at all. But of course, when Donald Trump was in office, they chose to focus in on little hoaxes. They chose to focus in on Russia. They basically destroyed this man's administration, and it was actually a miracle that he was able to get things that he got done. Like, for example, the First Step Act, which I was not that big of a fan of at the time, but at least it's some form of legislation. The Biden administration will tell you that we got the Voting Rights Act done, even though you already had the right to vote already, and also to go on top of this, it never actually passed. You needed 60 votes, not 51. Democrat voters or liberal voters, especially young voters, did not seem to understand you have to have 60 votes in the United States Senate to get legislation passed. 51 votes is for Supreme Court justices, and it's also for budgets, things of that nature. Like this current bill that was being sent through Congress, the immigration bill, I did a video on this recently. I'll link it in the description box. You would have needed 60 votes to get that bill passed because it was actual legislation. That right there is the actual truth of the situation, because they were never going to secure the border. Of course, the border issue, and Rapaport has had several rants. I've covered these in previous videos about what's going on in the city he's from in New York. And obviously, the entire country has completely fallen apart. Fact of the matter is, the Biden administration has not done a single good thing. But of course, tax cuts, getting the economy going, no new wars. That right there wasn't praised by the media when Donald Trump was in office. But let's watch a little more.
The more they print money, I'm always going to make more money, because money always rolls up to the wealthy, because the poor and middle income don't know how to keep it. They know how to spend it. The more they spend it, who do they spend it on? On capitalists that own equity. And the equity people make money. If I would say, the fact that the expectation of a massive recession to be taking place, well, that didn't happen, because that could have been in shambles, right? Unemployment stayed okay. I think Powell, the way he managed the interest rates, while the way we were going about the economy was okay.
The interest rates they're not good right now.
It should stay like, and by the way, I said this last week.
They suck now, because I just bought a house and a car in the last, and the interest rates are like.
Where did you buy your house?
I don't want to say.
You're not going to like this.
But not in this state, and not in.
I don't want to say. Basically, what Michael Rapaport is doing right there is he is telling you right there that he does not want to come out and openly criticize the current regime, especially when he's got a following on TikTok, online. I have no idea why people follow this guy. I've never really truly thought this guy was funny. I just never have. There's been some good acting performances. True Romance, for example, he was solid in that. He was actually pretty good in the very small amount of time he spent in the movie Copland. But outside of that, Rapaport has never really and truly been that impressive to me. I mean, he's definitely, A-list actor, but still, though, he's a multi-millionaire and he's got a big-time following. Now, where I will agree with some of Rapaport's takes, that's when it comes to sports. But I'm not going to get that much into this. But you guys can obviously see that there's obviously money issue here. You see someone like Patrick Bet-David, who's a multi-millionaire, he can get by when it comes to rampant inflation. you guys at home may be making anywhere between, I don't know, $21,000 to maybe $50,000 a year. Maybe you've got a family. Obviously, the rampant inflation and the loss of hours at work is going to be a problem. Go back to what I said at the beginning of the video. A lot of the jobs that are being created are part-time jobs, and a lot of people are taking out multiple part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And of course, as inflation continues to get worse, and of course, I can already hear somebody say, well, the price of gas is lower. Yeah, the price of gas is lower, but the price of bread shot through the roof. Okay, the price of eggs have lowered. Okay, yeah, but the price of meat's gone through the roof. If it ain't one thing, it's another, and quite frankly, the American people, and I tried to make this point, I thought I made this point when it came to the Stephen A. Smith video that I did recently, which I'll also link in the description box for you guys, that it's not exactly what the numbers say. People don't care what it is that you say. They care more about their feelings. Now, I understand facts over feelings is how you should be viewing things, but still at the same time, in this current day and age, and it's very, very interesting that I say this because the current administration, the person that Michael Rapaport voted for, which he voted for based upon his feelings and not actual facts, as you guys will see here in a second, you obviously see that people obviously care more about how they feel than the actual facts themselves, which is funny, like I said, because Biden is a feelings over facts type president. That's how he got elected. It's how people feel. That's what he preyed upon. That's also how the media does this well. And a lot of people are waking up from the great big giant haze. But let's watch a little more.
To each other, whatever. There's no way you were voting for Trump. It just wasn't in the cards. It wasn't happening. It was abrasive. He was racist. The media, yada, yada, yada.
And he was a joke. Like New Yorkers, like he was like,
Yeah,
He's a ball busting troll.
Exactly.
He's a
But
shit
here's
talker.
why I think you're going to vote for him this time, because you've seen what happened under his first term. You didn't. But you know, if you were looking at politics and you said you weren't paying attention to it, in my senior year I worked in Tallahassee in Florida State, where I went to school. I was worked at the Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
This was during the 2000 election. Gore versus Bush. I was a Clinton guy. I was rooting for Gore, what have you. I used to see Jeb Bush, George W. I was around this. Oh, shit. We saw what happened during the Bush administration, the bookends of it, 9/11, and then the great financial meltdown. There was no way in a million years that old John McCain was going to win the election over cool Barack Obama. It wasn't happening. But you're also a reasonable person, and you're also a dude. Like, you're a dude. You like to play ball. You like hip-hop. You like to talk shit. You're not a woke LGBT unicorn type kid.
Beta.
That's
You're not
you.
beta.
That's not you.
no.
So you've seen what the left has produced over the last 4 years. Again, I'm telling you, somebody that's been in that camp. I'm a JFK Democrat. Why am I a JFK Democrat? Because my dad was a JFK Democrat. So that basically led to me being like, oh, JFK's the man. He's a Democrat. That led to me liking Clinton. I like Clinton. All right, cool. You know, he's out there kissing babies, you know, getting blowjobs.
Now, guys, I let that one run longer than I probably should have. But the reason why I allowed it to run longer is because Adam, too, was also somebody who was very, very much on the Trump deranged train. You see, that's the thing that the Democratic Party doesn't have nowadays. Normal people don't have the levels of Trump derangement syndrome that they had a long time. But, of course, the Trump derangement syndrome does still exist. All you have to do is just look at Joy Reid. All you have to do is just look at anything on MSNBC and you'll see the Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome even exists amongst DeSantis loyalists in the Republican Party and Nikki Haley loyalists. By the way, most of those people just voted for Joe Biden in 2020. Don't let them fool you. It's pretty obvious when you actually go into their Twitter accounts, you see some of the things they've said. They kind of give themselves away. So just go ahead and know that a lot of that online facade is, in fact, just a facade. People will ultimately unite right around the candidate that is the one that is selected for the Republican nomination and Democrat nomination. However, the base itself will probably be much, much smaller on the Democrat side because there's a lot of people who are waking up to the reality of what Adam said. JFK Democrat, Bill Clinton type Democrat, Gen X type Democrat who's getting tired of the economy. And they're looking at the situation saying, my God, this is the worst president in American history. Now, it doesn't mean that they'll go out there and go vote for the orange man. It does not mean that at all. But chances are they'll probably look third party, or chances are they'll probably just not vote at all, which is exactly where we're going at with Mr. Rapaport. Now, I want to say this really quick. It's not just one thing. Like that's what I said earlier. It's not just one thing. Obviously, the economy is bad. Obviously, the interest rates are through the roof. Obviously, people can't buy a house. But this interview is very revealing because in a lot of ways, he reveals to you every single problem that most people who were or still are somewhat Trump deranged are dealing with. And why it is I think a lot of these Trump deranged people will probably be so Trump deranged that they'll probably stay home in 2024 and allow him to win. Then again, though, they'll probably, before the election say he's going to lose because it's cope. But still, at the same time, though, these people will probably still stay home or vote third party, thinking it's not going to matter. And, of course, the minute that Trump wins, if he does, these people will go absolutely crazy one more time. But Rapaport, in my opinion, I think has come to a little bit of a different epiphany. You see that Star of David that's wrapped around his neck, which of course YouTube will probably want to demonetize me, even though I've made several videos being pro-Israel, being on the pro-Israel side, which is how I really and truly feel. This right here is the issue that will ultimately destroy the Democratic Party. You see, those who are, let's just say, of the Hebrewic ethnicity, or I'm just saying that way to be more technical, they still typically tend to vote Democrat at about 2/3 to 75% clip. The truth be told is Jewish voters are more on the humanitarian side. They would like to see peace in the Middle East. And while they may not agree with the two-state solution, they don't agree with the Republican Party's notion of just going in and just blowing people up. Of course, the Republican Party has changed. We've moved from the Bush years to the Trump years. I know this because my roots were very, very much neoconservative. So obviously, my way, or former way of thinking, which is where I got my start at, is going to be, for the most part, seemingly archaic, which we'll explain a little bit more in tomorrow's video, because I do have a video coming out on Super Bowl Sunday. And of course, there's going to be some updates as well. But let's watch just a little bit more, because this right here is where it really gets spicy.
Going on with the wokeness, you see what's going on with culture wars, and you see what's going on with actual wars.
Yeah.
Specifically, you see who the Democrats have exposed their hand, especially the progressive left. You see what's going on between Israel and Gaza. You have 3 Star of David highs on your chest right now. And as someone who is a proud New Yorker your whole life, you see what the Democratic Party has turned into. This DEI, ESG, woke manifestation of ridiculousness, intersectionality, decolonialization. You're looking at that and you say, you know what? As much as I can't stand big dick Donald Trump,
You said it.
at least he's fucking normal. At least he doesn't want to turn my boy into a girl.
At least he's normal.
Well,
But yes,
At least he doesn't want to turn my boy into a girl.
Yeah.
At least he's defending Israel, not the fucking terrorists. And at the end of the day, I'm a reasonable person.
Yeah.
So like you said initially, I think I'm going to consider this.
I'm considering.
Really quick, before I talk about this, I want you guys to see this. Are you guys noticing that Rapaport's body language is kind of you can kind of see it. You can kind of see his body language is a certain way. You can obviously see that he is obviously thinking very, very carefully about what he's about to say. He knows that his followers are actually watching him, so therefore he's got to come off a certain way. But I want you to know this right here. He's been throwing those lines about Trump being on the table to his followers for a while. So I don't think that they're probably as upset or as shocked by anything he's saying at this moment in time. But still, though, it's still very important that people can see that obviously he is definitely, with the look he's got, probably a little bit concerned about his audience and where they're actually going to carry him. Me personally, I think a big portion of what's going on is that a lot of the people in his audience, probably more often than not, are actually complaining about the current situation. And he's probably thinking to himself, okay, maybe my audience is correct. Maybe I should consider this. Maybe, that could be what it is. Just throwing it out there as a possibility. Now, everything Adam just said is obviously true. You see what the hell's going on with the wokeness. You see all this stuff. But someone like Rapaport, I just answered the very, very first part before I cut it, because, of course, when you do edits, you got to kind of cut things. The thing is, it's right here. He knows that wokeness is going to kill his craft, which is comedy. It's already killing Hollywood. It's already killing everything out there. I mean, it's an absolute joke at some point in time, people are just going to start joking and clowning on wokeness, which will be 10 times more hilarious when you actually look at it years later. But we'll get to that in another video. But let's go ahead and watch just a little bit more and go ahead and finish this entire thing out, because obviously there's more things here that are, quite frankly, more revealing that Mr. Rapaport will let on.
Mean tweets, and he's orange. But life was good. There was no wars. The economy was going good. But damn, he's annoying to look at. But you also can acknowledge that the media had a major role in that. A major role in that.
When you take a step back.
Yes. You also acknowledge that.
Because I will acknowledge that, that one thing about the Charlottesville that I ranted about.
Yes.
And I was wrong.
About the both sides thing.
Yeah, and I respect
so irresponsible.
And I respect the shit out of it.
Wait, let me hear him out. Hang on.
Yeah.
Go a little bit more. What do you mean by that? You were wrong on that.
No, because he said the both sides, there's good people on both sides. And when you see the full quote, that wasn't what he said. And I ranted on him hard for that. Hard. There's some video about it, whatever. I mean, I ranted hard because I was like, what are you talking about, man?
Because
Charlottesville, probably the grossest hoax in American history on a president. Probably the grossest line ever. Now, guys, I'm going to play what was said after Charlottesville. I'm going to right now. I understand it's relatively long. Don't worry, I'm going to break it in the middle. But here is the version that the mainstream media loves to run. Let's go ahead and roll this.
Left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir, you said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me.
Now, obviously, people are going to think that's damning. But here's the other half.
Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
If you type in Donald Trump Charlottesville speech, Charlottesville, if you type that in, or very fine people, you will get multiple different versions of him talking about the very fine people ordeal. Do you know why? Because he has had to apologize for it on 6 or 7 different occasions. He has had to answer this, even though he answered it correctly the first time. I just showed you guys both halves of this because they only run with one half. That's how our mainstream media operates. They do drive-bys. And obviously, Rapaport was another person who got somewhat fooled by this, even though he was probably already on the left to begin with, somewhat anti-Trump to begin with. Still, at the same time, though, as you guys can see, he obviously fell for the hoax. And there are still liberals out there who still run with this, even knowing that the Charlottesville lie has, in fact, been proven to be an absolute lie. Let's watch a little more.
But to pull that, well, I don't know, we don't pull levers anymore. Yeah. Actually pull that lever.
Yeah, but pulling the lever for Biden.
And then I'm going to tell you right now, I won't vote. I'm not voting for Biden.
No.
I'm not voting for Kamala. I'm not,
But then you can't talk shit. And you need to be able to talk shit.
Well, wait a minute. So you're saying, so for you,
I won't vote for them.
So no matter what, that decision is
that
final.
Ain't happening.
Okay.
No, I'm not. That's not happening.
Who? What?
For Kamala and Biden.
Kamala, I'm not voting for them.
What about Michael?
Listen,
what about anybody
Vinny,
from the
what
left?
he's saying is,
Who? There's nobody.
I'm saying, like,
Kennedy.
what if Newsom or one of these cats pop up?
Gavin, I just left California. I'm not voting for Gavin with the good hair.
I love that. I love that.
Gavin with the good hair, just like Becky.
Fuck out of here.
So here's my thing though. So
I'm not a sucker.
They love him. You see how much they love him, though.
They love his
Newsom.
ass.
They like his hair.
But go deeper. Why do you say you're not a sucker? What does that mean?
Because I just moved out of Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's not happening, man.
Explain that.
Now, you just heard that. I'm not voting for any of these people. I'll just stay home and not vote. I'm not voting for Gavin with the good hair. Basically, what Michael Rapaport is telling you is that it does not matter who the Democratic Party sends out there. He's just not going to vote, or he's not going to vote for them. Maybe third party, but he even kind of alludes to Kennedy towards the end. There's also one more thing that he alludes to here in a second. It's one of the biggest reasons why it is Democrats are going to have some problems in California here in the near future. You see, when Donald Trump left the office, people were like, oh, God, man, he's gone. He exacerbated it. You know what I'm saying? He's gone. He's out of office. That's basically what they did. But what they didn't realize was the minute he was gone, everything that Michael Moore had said about the disaster that was coming, that came under the Biden administration. That right there is what really happened. As a matter of fact, I would argue that of 81 million votes, which, by the way, we can't really talk about what really happened that night. The thing is, it's right here, though. You still had to have boots on the ground to get Biden over. The truth be told is if you actually look at Biden's vote share, I can promise you right now that of 81 million people, I would argue that anywhere between 7 to possibly 15 million of them, they just simply voted just to be voting to get Trump out because they want a change in leadership because of COVID. They didn't have no political ideological issues against Trump. They probably weren't even pro-Biden. 7 to 15 million may be a little bit too much. That's kind of exaggerated. It's probably closer somewhere like 5 to 8. Still, though, if you add up all the numbers, you look at everything where the vote share was, if you do it all 50 states, chances are Trump probably would have won a massive landslide, at least electorally. I mean, he only lost by 44,000 votes between 3 states. What Rapaport is telling you is that it's not so much just Biden. It's the fact that the Democratic Party at large is what the hell people are upset with. And let me say one more thing before we go to the final point. Greg Foreman, Black conservative perspective, makes this point all the time, that the Israeli-Gaza situation will destroy the Democratic Party. A lot of it is because a lot of liberals, classical liberals, and even some Jewish liberals have looked at the situation, and moderates, they've looked at the radical far left position when it comes to Israel. They automatically believe that 1/3 of their party is simping for radical Islam. It's actually destroying their party. It's about 1/3 to half their voters. And don't get me wrong, there's an anti-Israel sentiment on the right too. You guys have probably seen a lot of these people got removed from YouTube, got removed from the platform. That's a different topic for a different day. Fact of the matter is, this entire thing is actually destroying the Democratic Party. But here's the one thing. Here is the one thing that is actually sending people away from the current administration. Pay very close attention to the very end.
Move out.
Well, I moved out because I wanted to go to New York. I didn't move out for any reason. I wanted to move back to New York full time. That's why I left. But on top, the homelessness in in Los Angeles and in California, San Diego, San Francisco. I could speak on those places. Sacramento is solely in Los Angeles. In the Los Angeles area is unacceptable. It's scary. It's I don't know the how to fix it. It's unacceptable. It's not safe. It's not sanitary. I know California and Los Angeles is a driving city, but I do like to walk. When you walk, you shouldn't feel just uncomfortable by hordes and hordes and hordes of homeless people. It's not good for them. It ain't good for me. It's not good across the board. And the taxes suck, but the homelessness and how it went, down so bad so quickly, and the crime.
Why? Why has this not sent these people right in the past? Here's why. The homeless situation has always been viewed as an absolute nuisance, just a nuisance. Now it's rampant, especially in San Francisco, L.A., and Rapaport was saying it was actually a lot worse in L.A. It is dangerous. But I want to say this about the homeless, because I talked about homeless vets before, being a vet myself. We need to be taking care of our homeless vets, not illegals. We need to be providing jobs, we need to be providing extra centers for the homeless. And there are people who go out there, put the money into these places to try to help the homeless out. Of course, the homeless, in some cases, they don't want to be helped out at all. But still, though, what he was saying is absolutely dangerous. The number one complaint that I hear from friends of mine that are liberal or Democrats is homeless. You know who they blame? They blame capitalism for it. They don't blame the mayor of the city. They don't blame the city council. They don't blame the fact that it's a bunch of people that they voted for that made the situation a lot worse. And that right there is the mindset of these people. They'll say something very, very rational, something very, very smart from time to time, but then they'll turn right back around and expose to you exactly how freaking stupid these people are. You're blaming capitalism for the homeless situation, but yet for the past 80 to 90 years in a city like Chicago, you've had a Democrat mayor and a Democrat city council. In L.A., Democrats been running that city for years. New York, we haven't had a conservative that ran New York since Giuliani. And even then, he couldn't get it done in 8 years. You're over here blaming capitalism for all your problems. Yet it's the people that you vote for that create these freaking issues. Not saying Republicans would be any better, but you need to actually look at who the hell is implementing the policies to make situations a lot worse. And that right there is my final thought on that. Here's my thinking. My thinking on Rapaport is that Rapaport has been through a situation where he's lost money. He's probably lost friendships too. He's been getting made fun of course, because of how he looks. He is a goofy-looking guy. I think that the homeless situation, I think that the crime situation that he's reported on, the things that he's seen, and now obviously the Israel-Gaza conflict, has made him completely reconsider his position. Is he turning to the right? Probably not. If anything, what he's simply doing is he's probably one of those people, like back in 2020, that simply just wanted the situation to end, and obviously the Trump deranged syndrome has worn off, or maybe it is. But then again, though, you could be fooled 2 months from now, and I could be coming out here making another video refuting this one here. With that right there being said, guys, please tell me what you think. There'll be a video out tomorrow on Super Bowl Sunday. I'll probably release it right around 2 or 3 o'clock. I know it's the Super Bowl, so I know you guys are probably going to be watching it. I'll probably be watching it too, even though I already know it's probably going to be a stinker. And I'm pretty sure we already know who's going to win. But still, at the same time, though, I will be back with another video tomorrow. I'll be giving you guys a few updates tomorrow, too, which I'll probably clamp down again on Monday's videos. But still, at the same time, make sure you guys stick around for them all. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys later.